Main event of the evening.
Hello and welcome to These Days Are Ours, a Happy Days podcast. I'm Peter.
And I'm Joe.
And today we are discussing the first of Garry Marshall's final 3 films as a director, Valentine's Day.
Okay, Peter, tell us what happens at Valentine's Day, and I know it's a lot.
It's the 14th of February in Los Angeles, and all over the city, Angelinos are falling in love. One such lovebird is Reed, who proposes to his girlfriend Morley. She says yes, and an overjoyed Reed goes to his florist job with his coworker Alfonso.
Oh, you thought you'd say no.
Oh, man, come on, you know me, always preparing for the worst.
At the KVLA television station, Valentine's Day hating sports reporter Kelvin is unhappy that he has to go interview people on the street about love, since all the other reporters took the holiday off. But his boss Susan stands firm.
Tell me, John Q, Jane Q, what does Valentine's Day mean to you?
It gives me acid reflux.
He goes to the flower mart where Reed gets his flowers, and when the owner Mr. Pham has camera fright, Reed helps him out. Mr. Pham also gives Reed a special box for someone special, telling him not to open it until the time is right. Meanwhile, Reed's friend Julia has spent the entire night with her boyfriend Dr. Harrison, who is flying to San Francisco to perform a heart surgery. He gives her a little plastic heart toy as a present, and she tells him about her neurotic friend Kara's annual I Hate Valentine's Day party.
She throws this annual I Hate Valentine's Day dinner. It's a bit of a downer, actually.
What's there to hate?
Meanwhile, Jason has spent the night with his coworker and girlfriend of 2 weeks, Liz, who abruptly leaves when she sees the time and gets an odd call on her phone. Once she leaves the apartment, she takes the call, which turns out to be from a client from her other job as a phone sex operator.
My roommate just got home. Do you want to have a threesome?
Meanwhile, married couple Edgar and Estelle exchange Valentine's Day gifts.
Edgar, we said we were not going to give each other presents this year.
I know I lied.
Their grandson Edison is less happy on account of missing his mother and feeling lovesick. Julia leaves Harrison's apartment building, sharing the elevator down with Felicia, a chatty teenage girl who received a large, fluffy white teddy bear from her boyfriend.
You know, I look outside my door, and my boyfriend's nowhere to be found. But there's like this giant white bear.
Yeah, the bears.
Julia goes to her best friend Reed's florist shop, where she feigns happiness that Morley is going to marry him and admits her boyfriend will be in San Francisco. Reed suggests flying there to surprise him. It's Valentine's Day after all.
It's Valentine's Day, you don't think. You just do.
Julia calls up Harrison, who lies about being at the airport. He is, in fact, returning to the home he shares with his wife and daughter. On a plane going to Los Angeles, Kate, an army captain on leave, has fallen asleep on her seatmate Holden's shoulder. He tries to make small talk, and she's reserved, though she admits she's got one day to spend with someone in LA.
14-hour flight both ways just for one night? Wow, that's romantic.
Morley visits Reed's shop to return his wallet, which he forgot. He notices she isn't wearing her ring, and she admits she doesn't want to tell anyone about their engagement yet. Edgar drives Edison to school, recounting how while studying to be an architect, he met a woman studying to be an actress, and despite his awkwardness, they made a date, and have been married for 51 years. They stop by Reed's shop on the way, where Edison wants to buy a dozen roses for the best girl at his school. Despite Edison not having nearly enough, Reed agrees to deliver them to Falcon Crest Elementary at recess.
Could I please have my receipt?
What, did you get audited last year?
Jason, in his job at a mailroom clerk at an agency, discusses his night with Liz with his coworkers, wondering why she left so quickly. He's reminded that today is Valentine's Day, and realizes he has to do something for Liz tonight.
No, it's a Monday. Valentine's Day always falls on a Thursday.
That's Thanksgiving. Who's your head?
Liz, a receptionist at the agency, is subbing as a secretary for Paula, agent to quarterback Sean Jackson. She struggles to juggle that with being a phone sex operator. Meanwhile, Sean is in a crisis. He recently lost a championship game, his contract is up, and he's 35 years old.
And your stink brings tears to my eyes.
He calls Kara, his publicist, who agrees to meet him and Paula for lunch, while worrying about nobody showing up to her I Hate Valentine's Day party. At a high school, teacher Ms. Gilroy invites her student Grace to help her with a test prep group, but Grace can't do it after school, when she nannies, or during lunch, because that's when she and her boyfriend Alex plan to lose their virginity to each other.
You know, I'm free tomorrow. Lunchtime. Lunchtime tomorrow will definitely be free.
Well, you'll be done having sex by then?
Alex discusses his upcoming sex with his jock friend Willie, who gives him advice on what to do before. Grace also discusses it with her friend and Willie's girlfriend Felicia, who is distracted by a petition to put lattes in the school vending machines. Then she and Willie meet up, and affirm their decision to wait to have sex. He opens her present to him.
It's my track shirt.
Yeah, but I ironed on your lucky number on the back. 13.
He doesn't want to try it on now, though, since he feels uncomfortable taking his shirt off in public. At lunch, Paula tells Sean and Kara that GM is passing on Sean, but assures him he can still do what he loves. Sean admits there are other things he wants, like love and kids.
Well, you can still have that and play football.
And Kara suggests giving him time to think about what he wants to do. On the plane, Kate and Holden are bonding over a game, and Kate reveals she's very good at reading people. For example, she can tell Holden is in a serious but not committed relationship, but has a problem with romance, or Valentine's Day. At Falcon Crest Elementary, Julia is teaching her class, which includes Edison. Harrison visits Reed's flower shop for 2 arrangements. One for his wife, one for his girlfriend.
I need your discretion. We have an understanding, right?
I understand there is a florist code about these things.
Oh, great. Here's the credit card.
Reed is willing to go along with it, until he learns the girlfriend is Julia. Alex arrives at Grace's house, where he scatters roses, strips, and begins practicing a song for her on his guitar. However, Grace's mother comes home when she isn't supposed to.
Alex!
Oh, Mrs. Smart! Oh my gosh!
What are you doing here?
I'm...
And a naked Alex flees right as Grace drives there. Liz is taking phone sex calls at the agency, hanging up on one right as Jason stops by to invite her on a date that night. Then Paula confronts her over a strange call on line 2, which Liz tries to spin as a prank call.
I'm hanging up the phone! Prank caller! Prank caller!
Paula doesn't fire her, just saying to answer her calls first. While Sean is driving, a joke about him on the radio causes him to rear-end Alfonso's truck. Alfonso is rightly angry, until he sees it's Sean Jackson, who signs his hat.
35 completions, 3 touchdowns in the ground and 1 in the air, and they think you should hang it up. Well, that's gratitude for you.
Well, thanks, buddy.
Sean wonders why anyone would order flowers instead of just buying and giving them themselves. And Alfonso says that for some people, love doesn't exist until you acknowledge it in front of other people. Sean calls Kara and says he knows what he wants to do. Alfonso meets up with Reed, who explains the situation with Julia and Harrison, and asks for advice.
Well, I think you have to ask yourself, if the situation was reversed, what would you want her to do?
Why you gotta be so sensitive?
And so Reed goes to Julia's school with the flowers. He takes her away from her class to talk. She tells him she's flying down to see Harrison, and after a brief interruption from Edison, who wants his flowers, Julia wonders if Reed is worried that their friendship is going to change because of their romantic relationships. Then she returns to her classroom to wrangle her rowdy students.
That is enough! Have you lost your minds? To your seats, that's it, that's it!
School lets out, and Edison is picked up by his nanny, Grace.
Oh, Grace. Oh, Grace.
He tells Grace that the flowers he bought didn't arrive, so she doesn't know he loves her. Grace agrees to help him, after his soccer practice. Julia gets a call from Kara, who is still worried about no one RSVPing to her party, then goes to catch her flight. Reed returns home to find Morley packing her things. She's not ready for this kind of commitment, especially not with her own parents' divorce.
Did you even consider marrying me?
Of course I did. But when you ask a girl to marry you, do you want her to just consider it? Or do you want her to just know?
She returns the ring to Reed and leaves, their dog leaving with her. Alfonso admits to Reed that he had an inkling that things wouldn't work out with Morley. Reed blows up at him for not telling him, and realizes he has to stop Julia from visiting Harrison. He speeds to the airport and buys a ticket just to get in, and once he hears Julia's flight number, runs out of security with his shoes. As Julia is about to board the train, Reed finds her and tells her Harrison is married, not divorced like she was told.
He's still married. Her name is Pamela. They live in Brentwood. I know because I deliver flowers to her.
Julia doesn't believe him, since Reed has tried to talk her out of every boyfriend she's had since they met. He asks her if she thinks he and Morley belong together, and after some evasion, she admits no. Reed says everyone agreed with her, but didn't tell him, and now he's been dumped, and he just doesn't want the same thing to happen to Julia. Julia hugs him, and gets on the plane. At soccer practice, Edison talks Discovery Channel with his teammate Rainey, while another kid mockingly calls her his girlfriend. Rainey will be working at her parents' restaurant tonight. They've got a wedding and an anti-Valentine's Day party. Edison plays badly, distracted by the sight of another kid with his mother.
Play soccer! Everyone on my team, play the game of soccer!
Kelvin is still doing his man on the street when he gets word of a press conference with Sean Jackson and literally runs towards the offices of his publicist, where he finds Kara crying on the floor because she's alone on Valentine's Day. They bond over their mutual antipathy for the holiday. Kelvin's replacement, Greg, goes to the high school to interview Felicia and Willie about young love. They make out on camera, and Felicia talks about how Willie used to shoot spitballs at her. Then Willie trips over a hurdle.
Oh my god, baby, are you okay? Walk it off, baby. Just walk it off.
Jason tells his friends about his romantic evening planned with Liz, a romantic restaurant dinner, then a movie at the Hollywood Cemetery. Edgar tries to comfort his grandson about the flowers, but Edison just runs upstairs. He and Estelle talk to Grace about her problems, and she tells them about her and Alex's failed attempt to have sex. They're going to different colleges, and she's afraid they won't be able to stay together over the distance. Edgar tells her that he and Estelle have only been with one another for their entire marriage, despite periods spent apart. Estelle abruptly leaves the room. While Grace is on the phone with Alex, she spots Edison sneaking out of the house and biking away, and she follows him. Estelle tells Edgar about a time when he was away in Florida, and she had an affair with his business partner. Edgar is crushed, and not even Estelle telling him he's the only man she ever loved is a comfort.
Well, unfortunately, Estelle, the truth makes everything else seem like a lie.
Back on the plane, Holden admits to Kate that he's recently single. They just weren't on the same page. She points out that one of the flight attendants is into him, though he denies it. Julia arrives at Harrison's hospital in San Francisco, where she learns he isn't on call. She asks the receptionist if he's married, and learns they just celebrated their 15th anniversary. Another nurse tells her where to find him. At his press conference, Sean comes out as gay.
I'm gay! He's gay!
Confusing the reporters who want to know if he's retiring or not. Sean clarifies that he's not retiring. While Harrison is having dinner with his wife, Julia appears as their waitress, where she exposes Harrison as a cheater and quickly leaves.
Tonight, the chef is featuring a dish that he likes to call the lying, stinking pig.
It turns out the maitre d' is one of her students' fathers, so he helped her do this. At Liz and Jason's restaurant date, she excuses herself when she gets a call again. Reed drops Alfonso off at his home, where Alfonso comforts him over Julia. Using the poetry of Rumi, Reed asks how he and his wife got it right, and Alfonso says he married his best friend. Kate and Holden's plane has finally landed. The super shuttle, bus, and rental cars are all bad options for Kate, so Holden gives her his car. She deserves to spend as much time as possible with this guy, whoever he is. Kate hugs and thanks him. Jason follows Liz out of the restaurant and finds her dirty-talking a guy named Stanley in a southern accent.
Oh, you know what's gonna happen when you do. Sugar and your little kitty cat. Oh, we're gonna lick you all up and down.
She admits what her other job is to him, and this is the best job to help pay off her student loans. Jason doesn't take it very well, and walks away.
Oh, walk away.
Jason attends the movie showing at the Hollywood Cemetery alone, offering his extra ticket to Edgar, who is also there alone, his first time without Estelle. But not really, because the film being shown is one that Estelle was in when she was an actress.
She was hot.
Still is.
Kara is celebrating her I Hate Valentine's Day party alone at the Golden Kadahi when Julia arrives and proceeds to take her anger at Harrison out on the Heart Pinata. More people soon join them, including Calvin, who says he's Kara's date. Edison arrives at Reed's flower shop, demanding flowers. Reed goes along, even driving Edison to where he wants to go in his van. Grace sees them and once again follows. They go to the Golden Kadahi, where Edison is finally going to give the girl he loves her flowers, the special box that Reed got at the beginning. Estelle arrives at the cemetery, looking for Edgar. They reunite, and Estelle says that even though she doesn't deserve his forgiveness, he'll forgive her anyway, because when you love someone, you love all of them. Edison goes inside to give the gift to Julia, his teacher, and hopefully his Valentine. Inside the box is a beautiful ornate rose, and she asks him if she's really the person he wants to give it to.
Well, when you pick a Valentine, you have to be sure that you choose the right person.
What about Rainey, who really likes Edison, and is the only other 5th grader with Frank Zappa on her iPod, and loves giraffes? It's the things you have in common that turn someone from someone you like into someone you love. While Julia reconsiders some things, Edison gives the rose to Rainey, while all of the adults dance to a Bollywood cover of Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours. Alex meets Grace outside the restaurant, and she admits she isn't ready for sex. It's not something you can make happen. They settle for just making out. At the agency, Paula gets one of Liz's phone sex calls, which she decides to go with.
You don't know what rough is until you've dealt with a true African queen.
Holden joins Sean in his home, having seen his coming out on TV. Meanwhile, Kelvin gives his final broadcast of the night, expressing his support for Sean as a gay player in football, though he jokes about house music at games and not wanting to literally stand behind him. Jason visits Sean at her apartment, to return her camera but really to apologize. When you love someone, you accept all of them, and you're stupid to turn your back on love. Then he gives her a sorry card he made using photos she took of him. Liz gets another call, but turns it down to have makeup sex with Jason. Julia makes up with Reed on a bridge, where they kiss. Both agree it's extremely awkward, so they decide to practice more. Meanwhile, Kate arrives at the home of her special someone, her son, Edison.
Thank you, Peter. That was Valentine's Day. It was released on Friday, February 12th, 2010. The other movies released that day were Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. This was the first of the Percy Jackson films, and the remake of The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins. The other big films in theaters back then were Avatar and Shutter Island, plus a Nicholas Sparks movie called Dear John. Of those movies, Peter, do any of those appeal to you?
I was 12 years old in February of 2010, so I actually did see Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief in theaters because I was a fan of the book at the time.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians, rated PG.
I was not happy with the movie, like a lot of people, as a fan of the books. I saw it, I was not happy with it.
I probably would have been drawn to that remake of The Wolfman, and I probably also would have been disappointed with it.
Yeah, that's one of those remakes that people just never talk about.
Valentine's Day was a massive hit, making $216 million on a $52 million budget. It was directed by Garry Marshall, and since this is the first of his 3 films formatted this way, I had to find out if there was a term for those movies with multiple overlapping storylines where the characters know each other and interact, and it turns out there is a term for movies like this.
Hyperlink cinema. I remember it because I once had this moment where I was like, whoa, Nashville and Magnolia and Love Actually all have the same basic structure. I wonder if anyone else has noticed this before. And yes, lots of people have noticed this before. I was very late to the party.
My only objection to that term is that a lot of the movies in this category would have been made before there was the World Wide Web. So the directors and writers and actors would not have known what a hyperlink even is. So Valentine's Day was written by Catherine Fugere, based on a story by Catherine Fugere, Abby Cohn, and Mark Silverstein. Catherine is a film and television writer from California, best known for creating the TV show Army Wives.
You're basically writing at home in your pajamas for 12 hours at a time with your coffee or alcohol. And you don't ever truly envision it's going to become such a wonderful creation. You're just sort of the architect in the very beginning, writing the plans.
And this is not the last time she'll work with Garry Marshall. Abby and Mark are writing partners, both born in California. Their best-known films include He's Just Not That Into You, Never Been Kissed, and How to Be Single. And I thought those were pretty predictable writing credits for the people behind this movie.
Yep.
As for the music in this movie, there is so much of it. The composer was once again John Debney, who remains one of the busiest composers in Hollywood today. He just did the score for the recent SpongeBob movie, for instance. Peter, any thoughts on John Debney's score for this movie?
No disrespect to John Debney, but given how much of this movie is just needle drops of songs that everybody knows, I think this job must have been incredibly easy for him. Basically, the only moment when I noticed his score was at the airport when Ashton Kutcher is doing the thing where you go to the airport and you try to get someone to not go on a plane to go somewhere. It's very sprightly without being outright stressful, which I think fits the scene pretty well.
Although it was prominently used in the trailers, the song I Got a Feeling by Black Eyed Peas is not actually in the movie. Were you surprised that I Got a Feeling was not in the movie because it was so associated with Valentine's Day?
I did not expect it to be in this movie. When you actually sit down and watch this movie and you hear needle drop after needle drop after needle drop, you start to kind of expect I Got a Feeling to show up just because, well, they used every other song, but maybe they didn't use it because I Got a Feeling isn't a love song.
Over the opening credits, we hear Say Hey, I Love You by Michael Franti and Spearhead. After Jessica Alba accepts Ashton Kutcher's marriage proposal, we hear For Once in My Life by Stevie Wonder. At the flower market, we hear I'm in the Mood for Love by Jules Holland with Jamiroquai.
I'm in the mood for love, simply because you're near me.
I definitely did not expect to hear any Jamiroquai in this movie. What did you think of their version of I'm in the Mood for Love?
I liked it a lot. It was offbeat and unexpected. Probably the best thing that I got out of this movie.
When Hector Elizondo and Shirley MacLaine first appear, we hear On the Street Where You Live by Willie Nelson. I also thought that was charming. When Patrick Dempsey speeds home, there's a montage set to Amor by Benny King. That's an oldie from 1961. A less obvious needle drop. But at the flower shop, we hear When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge. Maybe the most obvious needle drop in the movie. When Eric Dane is introduced, we hear Heartbreaker by will.i.am. We don't get I Got a Feeling, but we do get a little bit of will.i.am in the movie, in case you were worried.
He really was everywhere in the early 10s. You could not escape him.
Even if you tried.
Hey, will.i.am.
When Carter Jenkins arrives at the home of Emma Roberts, we hear Feels Like the First Time by Foreigner, which was so eye-rollingly obvious. I thought that was a little heavy-handed.
It really, really is. I really need to know how they chose all of these needle drops. Because Garry Marshall would have been like 70 when this movie was made. I don't believe that he knew who will.i.am was.
Carter Jenkins then sings a little song called Grace.
Oh, Grace, when I saw your face.
This was actually written by Scott Marshall. What did you think of that? Did you think that was catchy, charming, funny, stupid? What did you think?
I thought it was a sweet little song. That song specifically is maybe one of the moments in this movie that feels more true to life. It does sound like something that a teenager might maybe write for a girl he likes, even if everything around it, again, does not feel like something that would actually happen.
When Eric Dane is driving around, we hear Quit Your Job by Jamie Foxx. Maybe it was part of Jamie Foxx's contract that they had to use one of his songs in the movie. After the car accident, we hear Te Quiero Dijiste by Nat King Cole. When Ashton Kutcher is driving to the airport, we hear California Love by Tupac Shakur featuring Dr. Dre and Roger Troutman. Definitely didn't expect to hear any Tupac in the movie. When the action first shifts to the Indian restaurant, we hear Somebody to Love by Leighton Meester featuring Robin Thicke. And I had not thought about Leighton Meester in a while.
Sometimes I feel like Leighton Meester should have had the career that Blake Lively has had, But all things considered, she's married to Adam Brody. She's doing charity outreach stuff. She seems happy with her life.
Later at the Indian restaurant, we hear Ajmiri G. Karda from the 2001 movie Monsoon Wedding, Bano Ki Ayegi from the 1993 film Aina, and, as you mentioned, the Bollywood version of Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours. During the anti-Valentine's Day party, Jamie Foxx sings I Will Survive, and then Jessica Biel joins in.
At first I was afraid. I was petrified.
What did you think of that?
Once again, very, very obvious. Like, oh, you're hosting a party for people who hate Valentine's Day. Of course you're going to sing I Will Survive.
First I was afraid. I was petrified.
When Taylor Swift and Taylor Lautner make out, we hear Today Was a Fairy Tale by Taylor Swift. When Ashton Kutcher broods in the flower store, we hear 4 and 20 by Joss Stone. And over the end credits, we hear Stay Here Forever by Jewel and Jump Then Fall, also by Taylor Swift. Let's move on to our main cast. I'm actually going to breeze through this, Peter.
Oh, boy.
Now, our returnees include
Hector Elizondo, Larry Miller, Julia Roberts, Anne Hathaway, the Vogt brothers, and Paul Williams.
Paul is the voice of a DJ named Romeo Midnight.
Hey there, all you sleepy Angelinos. A good morning to you. It's your buddy, Romeo Midnight.
Which is also the title of a song from Happy Days, the musical. Of those, Peter, who are you happy to see or hear in this movie?
I was so happy to see the Vogt brothers. I wanted to spend more time with them. I wanted to spend more time with this guy who does lovegrams and at least one breakup gram today.
Today's the day I make most of my dough. I deliver lovegrams to businesses and such. I even delivered a breakup gram today.
And who was on a date that ended with a small fire and injury to a small dog. All things considered, I think that a Valentine's Day themed movie structured around sending lovegrams would have been a much better and more interesting structure for this movie, just because it would have been a structure besides it's Valentine's Day and we're in LA.
Our newcomers include Ashton Kutcher, George Lopez, Jessica Alba, Jamie Foxx, Kathy Bates, who is mending fences after that Frankie and Johnny controversy, Patrick Dempsey, Jennifer Garner, Topher Grace, Taylor Swift, Bradley Cooper, Jessica Biel, Kristen Schaal, Emma Roberts, and Taylor Lautner.
And it took this movie to make me realize Emma Roberts is actually Julia Roberts' niece. She is Eric Roberts' daughter. So
yes.
What I thought was bold was putting both Bradley Cooper and Patrick Dempsey in the same movie, and Jessica Alba, Jessica Biel, and Jennifer Garner in the same movie. Those are celebrities who can easily get conflated. They tend to blend together in my mind.
I mean, Jessica Alba is usually blonde, so I did not have problems confusing her with Biel and Garner. Yeah, I did confuse Biel and Garner with each other.
Jennifer Garner even looks a little bit like Julia Roberts in a way, and they all have character names like Jennifer and Jessica and Julia, and they have the Jennifers playing Jessicas and the Julias playing Jennifers, and I was like, oh, God damn it. Who among these were you happiest to see in the movie?
I was very excited to see the beginning of Taylor Swift's strange filmography as an actress. Obviously, she was a very big get. I'm sure that of the many people who saw this movie, many of them were young Swifties, but I think watching it, you can tell that she is not an actress. The character of Felicia, this chatty, shallow teenage girl who takes every opportunity to start using her dance team training when she is being interviewed for TV.
I'm on the dance team.
Maybe you could show us a little bit.
5, 6, 7, 8.
I think this character could have been hilarious if a real actress was playing her. Kristen Schaal has a bit part in this movie, and she is hilarious in the very tiny scene she has. Imagine if she was playing the character of Felicia. She's got a youthful voice and a youthful face. I would buy it. And seeing Taylor Swift with Taylor Lautner is kind of funny because obviously Taylor Lautner is not a great actor, but at least he is an actor.
What you think?
We're gonna wait. I think we should just, enjoy this time.
Felicia and Willie really don't add anything to this movie except jokes about Swift and Lautner themselves. Like, Lautner has this whole joke about how, oh, I don't want to take my shirt off in public. And Swift has her thing about how, oh, she's not a cheerleader. She's on the dance team, which is different. Because, you belong with me. She's cheer captain, I'm on the bleachers. They don't really add anything to this movie thematically. They don't really have a plot. They're just two young people who are in love for shallow reasons.
I'm very shallow and empty, and I have no ideas and nothing interesting to say.
And I'm exactly the same way.
They're not really all that funny. And also, Willie is not a name that a teenage boy would have had in 2010. That is a grandpa name.
They ain't a bunch short enough for you, Willie.
Maybe this movie was hoping to bring it back. We also have some cameos by Joe Mantegna, Hannah Storm, Rance Howard, and Garry Marshall himself. Did those cameos do anything for you?
I was very happy to see Rance Howard, one of the most underrated character actors of the 20th century.
As for our cultural and historical references in this movie, in case you're wondering, this movie was filmed in various locations in and around Los Angeles, including Venice, Marina del Rey, and Malibu. We actually get to see the man-made canals of Venice, which I thought was really cool. We actually see somebody paddling a canoe through the canals of Venice.
Yeah, the canals are cool. And so is the movie that they're showing at the Hollywood Cemetery. I like those little LA-specific things.
Garry loves to do location footage, and this movie almost serves as a little travel log about Los Angeles. In their bedroom, Ashton Kutcher and Jessica Alba have a picture showing the Frolic Room, an iconic bar in Hollywood that has been around since 1930.
In the shadow of Capitol Records is the last bar on Hollywood Boulevard, a throwback to the earlier golden age of the city. It's called the Frolic Room.
As far as I know, the Frolic Room is still there, so you can still go if you want. Ashton's flower store, Sienna Bouquet, is supposedly at 2173 Rosewood Avenue in Los Angeles. There is a Rosewood Avenue, but there's no 2173 and no Sienna Bouquet. Aww. The flower market is real, however. It's at 754 Wall Street in Los Angeles, and that was a really interesting place to me, this giant flower market.
What did you think about the joke where Mr. Pham, he's being interviewed for TV, and all he can say is that the captain and Tennille were married on Valentine's Day?
Mr. Pham, how many red roses do you sell on Valentine's Day?
The captain and Tennille were married on Valentine's Day.
Is that supposed to be like an English as a second language joke or just a camera fright joke? Because if it is the former, it wouldn't be the only ESL joke in this movie, and that's mildly uncomfortable.
I think it was a camera fright joke. I think the idea is that he freaks out on camera and then Ashton Kutcher is really cool on camera and swoops in.
There's a joke later in the flower shop where a woman is ordering chrysanthemums, but she's ordering them in a Bulgarian accent, and that's supposed to make it unintelligible.
I used to speak Bulgarian, but I'm an American citizen now.
Another employee at the flower shop says, "You should learn English. I had to when I came here," and it's like, ugh.
Jamie Foxx complains that Valentine's Day is not a real holiday.
In fact, Valentine's Day has its roots in an actual Christian holiday honoring St. Valentine, who was persecuted by the Roman Empire in the 3rd century. But sometime around the 14th century, the holiday became associated with romantic love, not really because of anything St. Valentine did, but because the feast day was close to the beginning of spring. The tradition of exchanging Valentine cards goes back to 18th century England.
And this should all sound familiar because we talked about it when we reviewed the Happy Days episode, Be My Valentine, which to me seems like a predecessor to this movie.
Would this movie have been better with more musical numbers?
Maybe.
The world may never know.
We see some stores on Hollywood Boulevard with roll-down doors with pictures of celebrities like Lucille Ball and Orson Welles painted on them. These are created as a part of a Hollywood beautification project. We also see some real-life businesses on Hollywood Boulevard, including St. Pierre's Hollywood Magic Inc., which seems to be gone now, but was a real store at one time. Bradley Cooper asks Julia Roberts,
2 bars, is that, Lieutenant?
And she answers,
2 bars is the captain.
As near as I can tell, 2 bars would make her a corporal. When Hector Elizondo is driving around, we see another Los Angeles landmark, the NoHo Gateway sign signaling the entrance to the North Hollywood Arts District. One of the kids in Jennifer Garner's class says,
Valentine's Day was a massacre in Chicago where they shot everybody and put a curse on the Chicago Cubs.
On February 14th, 1929, 7 members of the North Side Gang were killed at a garage in Lincoln Park. Decades later, the Chicago Cubs were said to be put under the curse of the Billy Goat starting in 1945. That curse has no connection to gangland violence or to Valentine's Day as far as I know. Maybe that kid just has his facts a little confused. Jennifer Garner tells the story of Emperor Claudius imprisoning and executing St. Valentine for secretly performing marriage ceremonies for soldiers, which had been outlawed.
But there was a priest who was known as Valentine who secretly married everyone anyway because he believed in love.
This is a popular legend, though the actual facts of Valentine's life are vague. There may even have been 2 different St. Valentines.
There's science behind this, and legend.
Topher Grace quotes the poet E.E. Cummings, "There's a hell of a good universe next door, let's go." This is from Pity This Busy Monster, Man Unkind, written in 1944. Peter, were you familiar with that poem before this movie?
I was not, no. There's way more poetry in this movie than I expected. E.E. Cummings and Rumi.
When the flowers spill onto the street, we see the Walt Disney Concert Hall on Grand Avenue in Los Angeles. It was designed by the late Frank Gehry.
Remember when Frank Gehry was on The Simpsons and he designed a concert hall around crumpled paper?
Frank Gehry, you're a genius.
Jennifer Garner says that a neutral chlorine atom has 17 protons and 17 electrons. This is scientifically accurate.
Scientifically accurate Ninja Turtle. Scientifically accurate Ninja Turtle.
Paul Williams quotes the 13th century Persian poet and Sufi mystic Rumi, "All we really want is love's confusing joy." George Lopez is also into Rumi. We see him reading from The Essential Rumi, published in 1995. That incredible pink car that we see is a 1966 Chevrolet Impala.
The Impala is great. I also really liked Emma Roberts' car. She's got this Herbie Lovebug Volkswagen Beetle. That was a really fun car, and it does convey very quickly that this character is kind of dorky, but she's also got her heart in the right place. A-plus car.
Jamie Foxx reports from the Guinness World of Records Museum, a real tourist attraction on Hollywood Boulevard. Unfortunately, it has since closed. This building was once the historic Hollywood Theater. It is currently scheduled for demolition to make way for a metro entrance on the K-Line Northern Extension. There's some unnamed attraction that is currently occupying the building, so if you want to go see the Hollywood Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, you'd better do it now. Greg Gilkins, played by Garry Marshall regular Matt Walker, says, "I haven't seen moves like that since the Northridge earthquake." He's referring to a 1994 earthquake in Los Angeles that claimed 57 lives and caused billions of dollars in property damage.
It just felt like something hit the side of the house, and then it just started rolling and got stronger and stronger, and the house started shaking back and forth.
So I guess by 2010, we could joke about the Northridge earthquake. Comedy is tragedy plus time, I guess.
Yes.
Topher Grace considers getting himself and Anne Hathaway 2 tickets to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And later, there is a whole sequence that takes place there. But this famous cemetery only shows movies during the summer, not in February.
It was an unusually warm February 14th, so the children walked home without jackets.
Would you want to see a movie in a cemetery?
Yeah. It's about connecting with the deceased.
We see a lot of LA County landmarks in this movie, including Bob's Big Boy, the Studio City hand car wash with a car-shaped sign. I hope you noticed that. The Bistro Garden in Studio City. That's where Jennifer Garner confronts Patrick Dempsey. And the Romanoff restaurant in Studio City with that distinctive Russian architecture, though they've renamed it the Golden Kadahi and made it an Indian restaurant.
They really said, do Americans know the difference between Russian and Indian architecture? And the answer is no. Show an American a picture of the Kremlin and the Taj Mahal, and an American will be like, they're the same picture.
Yep. Topher Grace and Anne Hathaway have their big date at a restaurant called The Boulevard. This is a real restaurant at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, specializing in California cuisine, whatever that is. And as you notice, they can walk right out of the Boulevard into the lobby of the Beverly Wilshire. My only hope is that if you really went to the Boulevard, the tables wouldn't be set up the way they are in this movie. Maybe that was just for Valentine's Day?
Maybe, yeah. They're just so crowded that if you are there as part of a group, they have to put you all together.
At the cemetery, the characters watch a movie called Hot Spell from 1958. This is a real movie that Shirley MacLaine starred in.
Don't make it difficult, Virginia.
I want you to marry me.
Did you want to see Hot Spell after this movie?
Yeah, I think I'll check it out.
And Edison says that Rainey is the only other fifth grader with Frank Zappa on her iPod.
Is that a real poncho? Is that a Mexican poncho or is that a Sears poncho?
The Zappa estate famously did not allow Frank's music to be sold in the iTunes store, so Rainey must have done what I did, which was to upload hours and hours of Zappa directly from CDs. That was a painstaking process, Peter.
Were you a fifth grader at the time?
No, I was not. Peter, were there any outstanding Garry Marshall fashions in Valentine's Day?
All of the outfits of this movie just kind of slid off my brain like turpentine. I will say that Ashton Kutcher wears the same long-sleeved pink shirt throughout the movie.
Just because I'm wearing a pink shirt, it doesn't mean I'm some kind of a pink donut eater.
Which I mostly bring up just because it's the most generic shirt I've ever seen ever.
The one fashion moment that really stood out was when Larry Miller said,
"Now look, buddy, I'm 52 and I'm wearing a bright blue shirt to work. Please don't make me madder than I am."
That made me laugh because this is one of Larry Miller's grouchy guy behind a counter parts that he specializes in. Peter, did you have any other observations you wanted to make about Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day is full of nice people who encounter hardships, but in the end, everything just kind of works itself out and everybody gets what they wanted. Even the mean ex-fiancé who dumps her boyfriend on Valentine's Day after he proposes to her on Valentine's Day, she's not a mean person. She's just not ready for this level of commitment. The only real scumbag in this movie is Patrick Dempsey as the jerk doctor, and I think that if he's going to be the only real scumbag in this movie, he should have been scummier. He should have been a Saturday morning cartoon villain. He should have been kicking puppies.
And I think all of us have kicked a dog or two.
And sneering at the concept of love, and he should have laughed maniacally every time he was on screen.
Are you saying that there's not enough conflict in this movie?
I'm saying that there's too much niceness in this movie.
This is a nice movie for the nice people. This is a movie for the moms and grandmas of the world.
Yeah, Yeah, but it's also a movie where people do not act the way that people would. For example, Anne Hathaway is a phone sex operator. You'd think that if she is a phone sex operator, she would do things like not take phone sex calls when she is at her other job. And when her boss, Queen Latifah, accidentally gets one of her calls that is phone sex, you'd think that she would get fired for that, but she doesn't for some reason. You'd think that if she knew that she would keep getting phone sex calls all day and all night on Valentine's Day, she would not go out on a date to a fancy restaurant where lots of people will be. And she does get a call like that. Emma Roberts is a teenager who is planning to have sex with her boyfriend for the first time. You'd think that she wouldn't tell that to a teacher. Why would you do that?
You actually brought up one of my pet peeves with this movie, and it was that the writers of this film should have done at least a little rudimentary research in how the phone sex industry actually operates and how the phone sex workers actually spend their day and how they structure their time, because I would have to guess that this movie has every single detail exactly wrong. None of that would be how it works. It's totally stupid that she's taking phone sex calls on her other job or on dates. I don't think that's how it works in the least. I don't think it's even close. Would it have killed them to do a tiny bit of research? And yeah, Emma Roberts is way too open in talking about her first time. But that brings me to the main question, Peter. Was this movie any good?
I think that some of the reviews of Valentine's Day at the time got a little bit histrionic and hysterical. Is Valentine's Day the worst movie ever? No. But it is 2 hours long of too many people doing too much stuff in what is supposed to be just one day. People treat Valentine's Day with either borderline religious reverence or just complete, utter depression. I don't think people actually take Valentine's Day this seriously in real life. It's not like Christmas. Obviously, Valentine's Day is very big and important, but not to the degree that I think this movie acts like it is. You especially look at Jessica Biel's character, who is like this bonkers cartoon of a neurotic career woman. It's like, no. This movie really does kind of feel like a bunch of Hallmark movies thrown into a blender. It's like if Aliens tried to make a movie and they didn't really understand how people work.
What I will say is that the trailer for Valentine's Day made some promises, and I think that the movie delivers on the promises of that trailer. I always compare each movie that we do to the previous Garry Marshall film that we reviewed. And may I remind you, the previous Garry Marshall movie that we reviewed was Georgia Rule.
Yeah.
Now, that film sets you up for Lindsay Lohan is a wild child who goes to Iowa to spend the summer with her religious grandma, Jane Fonda, and Jane Fonda is going to straighten out Lindsay Lohan over the summer, and then Lindsay Lohan's also going to meet a nice guy in this quaint small town. And that's a movie that they set you up for. And then the movie that you get in Georgia Rule is extremely different from that. The stuff that I just described is like the first 10 or 15 minutes, that's like the setup, but then something very dramatic happens, and then the rest of the movie is about that. At least this movie gave people what they paid for.
And what they paid for is Love Actually, but American and 7 years later. The specific movie that this movie is a lot like is Love Actually. I know that it's basically a Christmas tradition for people to complain about Love Actually, and you know what? It could have been worse. At least it feels like Love Actually has some real conflict. At least the characters kind of behave like real human beings. At least there aren't as many characters. At least it doesn't all take place over one single day.
They definitely copied and pasted a lot of Love Actually. There's no denying that.
They even do the bait and switch thing where you think that a woman is got like this romance going on, and it turns out that it's a relative. It's about familial love all along.
Yes. How did you feel about that in this movie?
I guess it's nice that they wanted to include that, but also I saw that twist coming from a mile away. I also kind of predicted that Bradley Cooper's character in this is gay, if only because if he isn't, he comes across as kind of a sleazoid hitting on Julia Roberts. I spent the entire movie thinking that Eric Dane was Josh Duhamel, and I didn't realize he isn't until I checked the cast list on Wikipedia between my first and second watch.
All I can say is that Eric Dane did not really impress me as much as an actor. I don't think he has a lot of range. All in all, I will say that this movie has a lot of Los Angeles location footage that I found very intriguing and very pleasant to look at. Scott Marshall was the second unit director on this. And I would have to say the second unit did some amazing work on this movie because there is so much second unit stuff in this movie. And I thought that all looked really cool. And it gave me a lot of ideas if I ever get to Los Angeles of things to look for and go to. So I appreciated that. This movie was not unpleasant for me to sit through. And Georgia Rule was extremely unpleasant. So that I thought was an improvement. I mean, did you have a bad time watching Valentine's Day?
I had a strange time.
Would you have ever watched it if you weren't reviewing it for podcast?
I might have. If I was doing like a specific deep dive into the filmography of any of the people in this movie, if you're doing like a history of the romantic comedy and how it gradually faded away from theaters and just became the domain of made-for-TV holiday slop, I feel like this movie does kind of feel like it has its feet in both camps. It's a big budget studio release. It's got an absolutely star-studded cast. It feels a little bit like watching Cleopatra in that way, but also like the made-for-TV holiday slop. It's a movie about fundamentally nice people doing nice things, and everything works out in the end, and everybody acts like an alien.
Ultimately, I would say if you think this is the kind of movie that would appeal to you, if the cast list and the title and the basic premise sound appealing to you, I wouldn't say that this movie is a ripoff. I would say that you would probably get what you're hoping to get out of it. So I would tentatively recommend it to people like that. But if you want Garry Marshall's answer to Nashville or Pulp Fiction, I don't know that this movie holds up. What is your ultimate recommendation for people on this film?
If you like movies that take place in weird alternate realities, watch Valentine's Day.
And who doesn't, Peter? So, Peter, how can people keep up with us and find out about all the wonderful things we are doing?
Listeners can follow us on Libsyn at thesedaysreours.libsyn.com.
And they can email us with questions, comments, and concerns at thesedaysreourspodcast@gmail.com. So, Peter, what do we have on the docket next time we get together?
Well, we've just celebrated Valentine's Day. Next time, we're going to celebrate New Year's Eve. And yes, it does kind of bother me that we're doing them out of order of when they would be celebrated, but that's when they were made.
And it's another holiday I do not care about. So, see you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.
Bum 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 bum.
Do 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 bum do do bum 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 do 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 bum do do Romeo midnight, that's who we are. A smile and a future as bright as a star. If you haven't made plans, heaven's got room for two. Romeo midnight is waiting for you. Do 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 bum 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 do 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 do.
You'll be done having sex by then?